Hey everybody, Brian Von Vier here, got another story for you. Player wants to homebrew his own abilities and plans to do so without asking permission from the DM. Later, throws a temper tantrum and sulks during a session when the DM graciously tries to implement the ability in the way they agreed upon. Oh, this is going to be a good one. Strap in, folks. Before we get into the video, we wanted to let you know that there's a giveaway that consists of $180 worth of awesome stuff going on in collaboration with EasyRollerDice.com. All you need to do to enter is click the link in the description below or in the pinned comments, follow us on Twitch and Twitter, and of course, visit the EasyRollerDice.com website. You can find all the links in the description or in the pinned comments as usual. Now, back to the video. I'm the DM in this story. I've unfortunately been playing a variety of tabletop RPGs and board games with this player for nearly a decade, and that time has been punctuated by periodic hissy fits like the one that sparked me to write this post. We'll call this player Red. Unfortunately, Red is also a friend, though his behavior is honestly calling that into questions as well. There have been several incidents over the years, and a gaming group in the city we both used to live in actually openly discuss how they think he's a sociopath. I'm starting to agree. He was notorious among that group for throwing tantrums and tapping out of games if he didn't like the rules, or if his strategy didn't work out exactly the way he wanted. I vividly recall one time when I was playing a game of Android Netrunner with him, and he made a bad move because he forgot a rule. He really has trouble comprehending and remembering rules. He immediately started fussing and refused to play any further. At least in this instance, it wasn't directed at anyone else. Still, the lack of commitment or consideration for other players is a constant thing with this dude. Sometimes, while playing a game, he'll just mentally check out and stop paying attention to the game, flippantly waving his hand and saying, "whatever," when the group call on him for his turn. He doesn't seem to have any shame for it and has never shown any remorse or contrition for his childish behavior. And he's notorious for it in our shared social circle of gamers. Well, recently I started running a 5th edition game on Roll20. D&D isn't my favorite game. I prefer Powered by the Apocalypse, but the pandemic and geographical constraints necessitate that we play online, and I feel that a crunchy game like D&D is actually better suited to a VTT. Also, I really like gothic horror and have always wanted to run Curse of Strahd. When I pitch this to everyone, combining a few players from different groups I've played with, everyone is on board except Red, who says that he doesn't want to play D&D because he doesn't like the system. That's fair enough, I have my own issues with it too. But when we start discussing the game in a group chat that Red is a part of, he sees that we're starting to have fun and he changes his mind. He wants to play. He comes into the session 0 and announces that he's going to play a Blood Hunter. He did not ask me if he could play a third-party class, and this annoys me because I wanted to keep everything core for simplicity's sake. But I want to avoid one of his patented hissy fits, and he'd been on the fence about playing in the first place, so I let it slide. This was a mistake on my part. Fast forward to this past week. He starts asking questions in the group chat about what people think is missing from the party. I ask why, concerned he's not enjoying playing his current character and wants to roll up a new one. He very casually says, "No, I like my character, but I'm thinking of homebrewing some new abilities to give myself some versatility." I'm not necessarily opposed to this, but I am put off by the presumption that he can do that without talking to me about it first. So I tell him, I'm not hot on the idea of players homebrewing their own abilities, not because I want the game to be limited, but because as a DM, I already have my hands full with the litany of rules that make up the core of the game. It's a lot to handle, even without half-baked homebrew ideas thrown in the mix. But I do tell him that he can run whatever he wants by me, and as long as it's full of cool flavor and isn't game-breaking, I will probably allow it. But with the caveat that I reserve the right to renege on the agreement if it proves to be problematic or OP in play. Red says that's fair enough and he will run some ideas by me later on. A day or two later, he messages me privately with his idea. It's not entirely game-breaking, but it needs some work both thematically and mechanically. For context, he wants to homebrew his own blood curse. All the Blood Hunter blood curses are explicitly about cursing or manipulating other creatures. The homebrew curse he wants to use just gives him a whip made of blood from his wrist, which he can use to disarm, trip, and attack enemies, and if he chooses to amplify the curse, the whip cracks, and all creatures within 120 feet, yes, he really wanted the range to be 120 feet, are deafened. There's no time limitation on this power or anything. I actually don't hate the idea of this at all. I think it's pretty cool, but it needs some work thematically, and it definitely needs some limitations. I suggest that to make it more like a curse, something that affects other creatures, like all of the blood curses as written, we switch the effects. The deafening cracks is the curse, and if you choose to amplify, then you have until the end of the next turn to make an attack with the whip. I'm not married to this, it's just spitballing. Red agrees, at least for that to be how it works in this upcoming session. But surprise, surprise! Red is not so amicable when it comes time for him to use the ability. As fate would have it, Red's character is first in initiative when the first combat of the session breaks out. He starts talking about how he's going to use this curse. I'm already a little frustrated because I felt that we hadn't really worked out the details, and using it first thing is a bit ambitious. So, as he's narrating what his character is doing and declaring that he's going to use his whip against the enemies, I begin to ask clarifying questions to make sure we're on the same page about how it works. Spoiler, we're not. He starts stammering out indignant protestations such as, "It's perfectly valid as a curse because a whip inflicts pain," and "I'm calmly trying to just come to an understanding about how this is going to work, especially in light of what we had seemingly agreed upon." The discussion is getting on a bit. Again, this is the first turn of the combat. Eventually, he just says, "I'm just not going to do anything." I tried suggesting that there are other things he can do if he doesn't want to use the homebrew ability as we discussed. He refuses to do anything. He just sits at his screen and pouts. I feel it's time to move on. Second round, first turn. Red is up. Again, "No, I'm sitting this one out." Okay, great. So now I have a player who is refusing to play. Not because he couldn't homebrew his own ability, because A, it couldn't be exactly what he wanted, and B, the DM wanted to come to an agreement on how it would work before implementing it. Well, I don't like these sorts of confrontations. They really throw me off my game and make me anxious. So, naturally, I'm not having fun anymore. I kind of hand-wave the rest of the fight because it's just not fun having someone act like a petulant child when you're putting so much time and energy into curating a fun experience. After the combat, we have some RP and NPC interaction, but I'm not really feeling that either. When the session ends, I don't linger in the channel to shoot the shit with the other players and whatnot. I'm done. I don't know what to do, or rather, I don't know how to do it. I know I don't want to play with this guy anymore. This is just the latest in a series of petulant, childish temper tantrums that I don't feel like I need to endure anymore. But this is complicated by the mutual friendship of several members of the group. Red is not receptive to criticism or any sort of conversation that could be perceived as an implication that he has done anything wrong. A frank and open discussion would normally fix this, but I know this guy too well, and believe me, a mature resolution to this is out of the question. To be honest, I think the game is just over. Even if this guy had a sudden, unexpected, dramatic change in personality and apologized and promised not to do it going forward, I wouldn't believe it. This type of behavior has gone on for too long. It sucks for the other players, who are all pretty chill and easygoing. But there isn't any way for me to neatly and efficiently excise this habitually problematic player from my group without sacrificing the whole game. I'm resolute. I would rather not play tabletop games ever again than play with this player anymore. So, the game has to go. So from here, I'm probably just going to tell the group that we're going to take a break because I'm burned out, and then never start up again. Hey, if you're listening to this out there, from me to you, just kick the guy. Tell him flat out, look, I know we're all friends here, that we have some mutual friendships, but honestly, if someone's being that toxic and it's bringing you down to that level, and you've tried your best to communicate with people and they're just not listening, it's time for them to go. Talk to the friends group, talk to everybody, say your piece, and if they don't like it, find a new group that will cater to your needs, aka the needs of someone who just wants to solve things with communication and have that communication to begin with. Next up, we have a story straight off the presses from r/MrRipper. This one's titled Big, Bad, Explosive Goodbye. This was my first ever campaign of D&D. I was playing a rogue soul knife and was level 7 at the time of the incident. Our party had just finished running Lost Mines of Phandelver, and the DM began to use his homebrew. This race, whom he called the Tallest, were a race of shapeshifters that were trying to take over the world. You know, normal big bad evil guy things. Our group managed to skirt around the big bad evil guy and avoid a total party death. Eventually, we made our way to another town, with some of the townspeople that we help escape from Phandelver. There was a rumor in the town that the mayor had locked his doors and wouldn't leave his 20-story house. Naturally curious, I climbed up to the 17th story and saw that the mayor and his servants/guards were dead. And there were Tallest in the house, transforming into the mayor, guards, and some servants. I relayed this to my group with a telepathic link and told them to make their way up to me. Totally disregarding me, our wizard knocked on the door, summoned some lesser demons, and killed the tallest servant that answered the door. What he didn't account for was that this tower would go into complete lockdown. Being the nimble and brilliant rogue I was, you forgot to say dashing too, I jumped through the window into the 17th story with a 26 stealth roll. Shortly after, the room began to fill with gas. On a successful medicine check, my DM told me that this gas was in fact very poisonous and very explosive. This in mind, I quickly made my way over to the mayor's desk and found a magic pin that would allow me to breathe, while the Tallest made their way around the room, sealing the vents from allowing more gas into the room. But 3 of the 4 Tallest died, and the last one had a pin like mine. I used my sneak attack to deal 21 damage and then got hit for 18 points. Sitting at half my hit points, I took a gamble, disengaged the enemy, and took a running jump off a chair to the chandelier hanging from the roof of the mayor's office. This Tallest tried to follow me, but failed his acrobatics check and landed on the floor, looking up at me. Hanging from this chandelier, I winked at him, lowered my flame-tongue rapier into the gas below me, and said its command word, Ignis. The top 3 floors of the building were blown to hell, and I managed to avoid the 196 damage with a 32 dexterity saving throw. Thank God for evasion. The Tallest were dead, and I had enough rope to help the party get to the 17th floor with me. Or what was left of it, at least. Hey everyone, Brian Von Vie here, checking in after the video. If you like today's vid, then make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you can get notified whenever we go live or upload. Now, if you're interested in submitting a story to us to be read live or in a video, make sure to head on over to r/MrRipper and throw one in there. Now, if you'd like to be entered in a giveaway for $180 worth of goodies and swag from our good pals at Easy Roller Dice, then be sure to follow the link in the description and pinned comment, including following us on Twitter, Twitch, and of course, visiting the EasyRollerDice.com website. Links are in the description below. Using a help action, you can come over to me and say hi, Brian Von Vie on YouTube, where I stream games and share fun voice acting videos as well. Tonight, I just want to freeball something really quick. Normally, I write this out and try to get it really nice, but I just want to say one thing. If you are ever dealing with somebody that you don't like, no matter if they're mutual friends with anybody you know or not, you have every right in the world to never talk to them. You can talk to your friends and say, hey look, I have a problem with this person, I won't make a big deal out of it, but I'm just not going to talk to them. And if that's a problem with you guys, I'm sorry. But honestly, if they're really good friends of you, they're never going to abandon you anyway, and they're not going to make this a big deal. They're just going to say, hey, everyone has a preference, let's move on. You're worth it, they're worth it. Never, ever, ever endure something that you don't want to. You don't deserve to deal with that, and you don't need that pressure on your heart. All the love to everybody, be safe, we will see you next time, bye for now.